Listen up, America, this ain't no made up stuff. From the muscle, I hustle. For the hustle, I bust.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name's Jan McKay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm filming this. You know, I have some Jamie Mall Films here, and they're filming it. So pardon me if I'm not looking at you and I'm looking at the camera. I'll be looking at both. It's our footage. I'm not really tripping about it. But again, my name's Jan McKay. I'm the founder and president of Life Outside the Streets. However, I come to you at this press conference to speak to you as a citizen. As a citizen, Jan McKay, born and raised in North Philadelphia, Erie Avenue. I went to Girard College from 2nd to 12th grade, so I like to say that I'm born and raised from there too as well. And I called this press conference because of the state of our city. You know, the violence in Philadelphia is completely out of control. I don't know what number it's at. I think it's about approximately 350 murders at this point. And unfortunately, you know, politicians, the media, and the powers that be have been giving the community the impression that there is not an answer to this problem. You know, so I'm going to get right into it because that's what this is about. So I'm a student at Community College of Philadelphia for Behavioral Health and Human Services. I'm a returning citizen. I was incarcerated in charge with selling drugs. I came home. That happened in 2012. I came home in 2014. I just maxed out of my parole, so now you know I'm off papers. But I've been a student of behavioral health for the past 2 years. And my last semester, which concluded during the spring, it happened during COVID, and I had to write a research paper for it. And I wrote "Why Trauma is a Disease." So you know, right directly and getting straight to the point. On the flyer it says, "Treating trauma stops violence." So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to read the introduction to my paper to make the case for, you know, why trauma is a disease and a direct correlation on how us treating our trauma is going to stop the violence. And I'm not just talking about the science, I have a more detailed plan that we'll get into. So why trauma is a disease? About 2 years ago, I attended a thoroughly presented trauma-informed care training facilitated by Lakeside Global Institute. Lakeside Global Institute has over 40 years of experience supporting thousands of students in their therapeutic schools and services. Lakeside also trains professionals across the country and around the world in the brain-based trauma-informed approach. I walked in that training as a business major student with an agenda to transform my community through economic development and creating learning opportunities that would deter violence and destructive behaviors that plague our communities. I left there with a clear understanding, backed up with scientific research and data, explaining why violence and many other unhealthy destructive behaviors are perpetual in our communities. The training broke down how trauma or toxic stress that goes untreated causes brain damage that develops into destructive mindsets that produce unhealthy behaviors along with conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, and cancers. So let's do a little recap, because I'm not coming here, this ain't class just to read, you know, this script. So basically what I gathered from that is untreated trauma such as growing up in the hood, poverty, violence, domestic abuse, all the things that no one in the world wants in their lifestyle, all of those forms of trauma, experiencing those things and not learning how to, and not getting them treated. What does treatment look like? It looks like having a person that you can trust to talk to. It looks like having a therapist in your life and talking to them. And it looks like having healthy coping skills. So when you don't have those things, where you're not groomed and you're not raised up in a household that's teaching you how to deal with not having your way, you know, that's not teaching you how to process the loss of your grandmother, the loss of your friend, where dealing with those things up front is not a priority, you're walking around with untreated trauma. So that's what untreated trauma is. And what that is saying is, when you have untreated trauma, you're going to basically, it's going to impact your mindset, and it's going to cause you to make unhealthy choices and decisions. When it comes to dealing with things that you don't like, You might resort to violence. You might resort to isolation. You know what I mean? You might resort to suicide because you didn't learn how to cope with that thing which you don't agree with or that you're unhappy with.
Now, I'm going to go through some of the things that I typically hear. To the very astute, I usually get I'm black, I'm bearded, and I'm strong. I also get I look like NBA superstar James Harden. I'm most definitely the poorer version. I get hip-hop superstar, Emmy Award winner, Donald Glover, a.k.a. Childish Gambino. Yeah, that too, right? And last but not least, I get Curtis Jackson, a.k.a. 50 Cent. Now, one of my goals is definitely to get rich or die trying. I think Sally Mae is putting the emphasis on or die trying, right? But see, what I don't hear is, Phil, you look like somebody that lives with depression and anxiety. Phil, you look like somebody that was suicidal for 15 years, every day, 5 to 6 times a day. They don't say, Phil, you look like somebody that was driving on Interstate 95, wanting to crash your car to end your life. No. Because see, here in America, when we think about mental health, we think about the homeless man who's walking the streets, talking nonsensically to himself. We think about the white celebrity who takes their life via suicide. We think about the white mass murderer who goes into a high school and takes the lives of innocent children. Or it's usually your president who loves to tweet venom from the hip. But see, rarely does the conversation speak of a father of 2 kids, someone who possesses a master's in exercise science, a master's in social work, somebody pursuing a doctorate. Rarely is it a person of color. Rarely is it a black man like myself, until now.
So as a result of that training, I decided to change my major from business to behavioral health studies. I realized my initial plan to uplift and transform our community through economic development could never be sustained without dealing with the psychological trauma that causes brain damage, which is the root cause of the behaviors that plague our communities. So here it is. This is the good stuff, folks. You don't want to miss this. Here it is, April 9th, 2020. And I've been on quarantine in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania since March 13th because of the coronavirus epidemic. However, my mind is fixed on wondering why the American government has never gathered so collectively and intentionally when it came to preventing or eliminating other treatable diseases such as cancer, heart disease, and most of all, psychological trauma. Interesting enough, psychological trauma is not classified as a disease by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. You know, the ones that led this whole agenda around coronavirus. Yeah, they're in charge of managing any and all diseases. That would also include trauma. The what it says, hold up. So interesting enough, psychological trauma is not classified as a disease by the Center for Disease Control or the CDC or any major medical organizations, which is why I am arguing that psychological trauma is a disease and why it's imperative that communities identify it as one. So that's what's most important. So we saw, without me reading through this whole paper and giving you guys more details because I don't want to bore you, we saw how quickly our government organized around dealing with COVID-19 because it was a disease that could easily be spread, right, and kill people. So, which is very important. They organized, and within 2 months, the government allocated, I think, about $6 trillion, to deal with this disease, which is great. It is really good news to know that this is how we will mobilize around dealing with a pandemic. So what puzzled me was, why haven't we taken the same approach when it comes to trauma? I know why. Because of the country that we live in, as we know it, America, which is now old America, because we're declaring a new America today. It was built on systematic racism to keep us out, to box us out. You understand what I'm saying? So when you look at an issue like trauma, and it's not just black people, because the study of trauma it began during wartime, as early, you know, in the beginning when America was going to war, and when the soldiers would get impacted and their mind would be messed up, they would blame it on war. They would say, oh, it was because he was out there near a blast that now he's not thinking straight. He needs better training. But then over time, they realized that individuals that weren't by the violence, individuals that weren't in the shooting, that they had the same damage. The trauma infected their brain, you get what I'm saying, and caused brain damage in the same capacity. So then that's when they recognized that this thing it didn't come from the physical things. It didn't come from their experience, the damage. You know, it didn't only come from that. It came from them processing and seeing death and seeing murder. That is what caused PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So that is the first formal definition of trauma as it relates to the CDC, right? So the reason why all of that is important, because in Philadelphia and across the country, that's what we see. This country was built on violence. So it was built on trauma. And the way that trauma works, you know, unlike, you know, COVID-19, where you have to actually come into close contact with somebody and exchange, you know, fluids and things like that. Trauma, you can be exposed to trauma through seeing it, through hearing it, while you're asleep, hearing domestic violence, watching videos, witnessing it on your block. You don't have to be in close contact to be infected by trauma. You understand what I'm saying? So now, all the way back then, the United States government has been trying to downplay this trauma piece. So now we fast forward to 2020, right? And basically the behavioral health and the social services department of our country, they're beginning to understand, as a result of the ACE study, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences, which I'll get into details later. As a result of this study, they have begun to prioritize educating professionals on what it means to be trauma informed, what it means to work with families like ours, because they are basically confessing to knowing how much trauma we go through, right? So that's why all of the teachers and all of the professionals are getting trained. However, the families have not been informed. See, they're teaching the professionals, but they're not educating you all. And that is what Life Outside the Streets is committed to doing. We're committed to bringing you the education around what trauma is. So somebody might say, well, that's something, all right, that's simple, that ain't nothing major, but it is. Because trauma, education around trauma, and teaching you what trauma is and how to treat it is unique in the sense that it actually breaks ground on the healing process. So let's get to the big grand plan of how I plan on, or how we plan on stopping the violence in Philadelphia. So I had to give you the background on the science on the direct correlation on how untreated trauma is directly related to people dealing with problems by blowing somebody's brains out. It's not just happening for no reason. You understand? And that's the first thing we got to realize, that the reason why people are going out and committing violence is not because they don't care about life. It's not because it's just happening for no reason. It's not only because of poverty. It's because they are sick.
Any means necessary. By any means, my dream's so necessary. So if that mean no more beams on the scene, no serving fiends, and leave my team like the king, I know it's necessary. We need peace in the streets, but not to be police. We need to teach, we need to speak, we need to eat. We need peace in the streets. Before we get that cheese, we gotta think, we need to take, we need to drink. We need peace in the streets, but it's gonna take change. That lead to beef, but I'm prepared to succeed. We gotta practice what we preach on the beat, to see life outside of the streets. So for the real, I'm a squeeze.
Can we all just get along? Can we all just
So here's the plan. The plan is there's about 300 and something murders, homicides in the city. So Life Outside the Streets has created a program and an agenda to service those families. So we're going to kick that off with what we call in a Hope with Love box. In this box, it will be therapeutic resources and merch to begin the healing process. You know, that will be accompanied with free services from Life Outside the Streets, led by myself and community partners, providing them with groups in therapy, and activities that help them develop and identify coping skills and self-care activities. That's all we have to do is prioritize teaching and educating people what trauma is, how to treat it, exposing them to self-care and coping activities that work for them, and providing them with that consistent support. By targeting these families are at the center of all the violence in our entire city. So if we were to organize and provide those families with the best healing resources to heal through this, it's going to filter out into all of those that are attached to that pain and that loss. And as we do this in the face of the city, because we're not doing it in the crevices. After today, this won't be the last time that you hear from me. We're going to do this in front of the world. So as we're doing it in front of the world will be getting the same exact services. We know the power of the media and messaging. We are living exactly what we watch every single day. And that is not left on the children or black people. Everything that we watch promotes violence and it manufactures trauma. And we watch it and we consume it. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that because the same way that we watch violence and sex and all that, and now this is what we see plaguing and tearing our community down, as we prioritize this messaging around treating your trauma, love, and peace. If every time you cut the TV on, if every bus you got on, if every store you went into, if everywhere you look, it's a message of healing, it's a message of it's okay not to be okay. If everywhere you look, you see healing, you see love, that's what we're going to see.
Watching the video of George Floyd's arrest has many experiencing trauma.
Reg Chapman shows us how we can all be part of the healing process.
Just steps away from where protesters manned the memorial for George Floyd, the process of healing is underway.
This is our community healing piece, so you guys are more than welcome to jump in.
Artist Christopher Deans and his wife Cara are providing a space for people to express their pain, frustration, and even anger through art.
So when we start having a dialogue, shaping narratives, and having conversations with one another, it's healing. It brings us to a place to be able to have the conversations about the whys and the what next.
Dean says the messages painted by community members help them deal with the trauma they experience.
It took a lot of humanity away from us.
By seeing images of George Floyd's last moments alive over and over again.
Well, first of all, in order to deal with the trauma, you got to understand the trauma.
Therapist Resma Manakan.
When black bodies see experiences of black bodies being ripped apart and murdered, it reminds us on an historical level what has happened and continues to happen to us.
Manakan says when dealing with historical trauma, you have to let people express their grief. He believes that's what young people were doing last night, releasing anger associated with the trauma they are experiencing, but he says there are other ways to deal with it.
We have to actually open our homes and our buildings and with each other put our mask on and then just rub the brother's back or rub the sister's back and allow them to begin to move through these pieces and say, I got you, you're all right. You matter to me. I love you. And then move through it.
Art is another way to deal with trauma. Manakan hopes what the Deans are doing spreads because more healing spaces are needed to turn the feelings of trauma into true healing. Reg Chapman, WCCO 4 News.
And I remember it like yesterday. I was sitting in computer class. Miss Williams, my computer teacher, came up to me, and I don't know what she said. She said, Phil, she could have said, Phil, what was the score of the Eagles game last night? I let her have it. I blacked on her. I cursed her out. Why? Because I had all this built up anger, all this built up rage. Because see, when we're talking about depression and anxiety for black men especially, it doesn't look like somebody laying in bed for 6 and 7 days on end. No, it manifests itself through anger and rage. I ended up getting suspended that day. And Ms. Williams and I were able to laugh at the situation years later because I was able to cope with it and understand what I was feeling. But again, it was a moment in time that impacted my life. My third and final story happened at Bloomsburg University in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Again, we remember traumatic situations, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I call it the Jew story, right? Because when I go fill out job applications and it says, have you ever been convicted of a crime? As long as it doesn't say misdemeanor or felony, I can ignore it if it says that. But if it says, have you ever been convicted of a crime, I have to check it off. And then I'll put, well, it all started with a cup of juice. And then the employers, they laugh like, oh, man. And I laugh like, ha, ha, ha. That's my life.
And we have access to that. It's nothing stopping us. I called this press conference on my own, all glory be to God, to the internet. Because now we don't have to wait for Channel 6 and Channel 29 to pull up. Because they getting their news from us now. They going on No Gun Zone. They going to Philly Scoop Hall. They coming to our platforms for media. So we don't have to wait for them. You know what I'm saying? I've been touring all around this city since I got out of high school, but most recently since I got out of jail and since I got this knowledge. And I got to beg for 5 minutes to get on the podium to get the people the truth. But I really don't. I was doing that because I wanted to, I was passing the information off to people that was in position to make it happen now. They was in position to make it happen now because I knew where I was at. I was on parole. I had to have a job so I could do this and I could do that, so I gave it to them. You know what I mean? Hoping that these politicians, these people that's running schools, these people that's running organizations, that's in position at the top of the food chain. I ain't talking about the little fish. I'm talking about city council. I'm talking about the mayor's office. I'm talking about the big players. They know this science. They have had it presented to them. They're not moving out on it. But that's why we are. So we're moving out. So that's our plan as it relates to, dealing with the violence directly. Now, that treating and healing is all cool, but we need paper. We need control. We need power. These people, and the only way that we can get that is by organizing. So I had to get right to, treating the trauma and the violence piece because that is the priority. However, to successfully do that, we need ownership. And then the key to that is what I just talked to you about, is politics. So let me just slow things down because I talk a lot and I want people to get it. Most people are familiar with gentrification. So gentrification happens because developers and business people, I think it always falls in one of two categories in my opinion. One part, America's agenda about boxing us out, is why they don't bring it to us, why they have to gentrify. But the other part is, some of them might even want to work with us, but they know or believe that we're not really familiar with doing development. So gentrification happens because developers want to come into our community and build it up, and in order for that to happen, they need the community support. But if they have an agenda to keep us boxed out, or they don't believe that we can support them accordingly, then they bring their own people with them, plant them in our communities, they have the necessary meetings, get the necessary zoning, and then they do the development they want to do. So why is that important? Because it's set up for the people that live in the community to do the same exact thing. But most of us don't know that, but I know that. And many of my supporters do. So my priority, as an individual, is to educate you on how the political system works and how it's supposed to work for us. These politicians, I think it's clear now that they work for us. Everybody pretty much gets that. But now we have to organize and make them work for us. We don't have to ask them anything. I'm quite sure some of you have seen the memes going around that showed you how many people actually voted and how many votes it took for Donald Trump to get in office or any president and how many people didn't vote. Well, I got news for you. I'm not scolding y'all for not voting because I know why y'all don't vote. Y'all don't vote because there's nobody up there qualified that's campaigning. And even if they are qualified, they're not campaigning for issues that are relevant to us. So it's irresponsible to go out and vote blindly for something that's not for you, that's not benefiting you, and something that you might not be knowledgeable of. So to all of those that are advocating for voting, it's irresponsible to go around and tell people to go out and vote because somebody died. You tell them to go sign a contract that's going to dictate their life for X amount of years and do it blindly. So if you want somebody to go out and vote, the responsibility is on you, the politician. The responsibility is on you, the messenger, to educate that person. And if you after you educate them, they will vote if they become aware of something worthy of voting for, or they won't. But we will not be walking around telling you to vote for something that you don't know about, because that's irresponsible. So I actually respect the hundreds of thousands of people that don't vote, because they recognize that there's not no one there for them. But what we got to do is see that those people are the people that we're coming for, because we know why you're not voting. So we're organizing to teach you how this voting thing works and how we can leverage it. And I'm confident. I know you, because I'm with you. I know where y'all at. So as we target and we show that we're serious as it relates to organizing and executing, it's only going to take us to remove one person. We only got to remove one person. We only going to, after we organize and we remove one person for not doing their job, everybody else is going to be in line, because we already have the majority. The numbers they're coming for that. They're trying to get, they're never going to convince us to join in on voting with them. I vote every year. I do vote. But I'm talking about those that don't. I know why you don't, and I know why I do, because I look into it on a higher level. But at the end of the day, it's some things that need to be prioritized that haven't been prioritized. This violence is nothing new. I mean, the COVID-19 numbers are serious. However, let's compare them to the numbers that come from systematic oppression. Let's check out those numbers, because the body's still dropping. COVID numbers kind of going down. They saying there's going to be another surge, but the bodies never stop dropping from the disease trauma. That disease is still traveling around. There's no agenda for it, and it's actually being manufactured by the media, the news. They understand the science. They're pushing violence. They're pushing pornography. They're pushing sexual abuse. If you look at the definition of sexual abuse, it says exposing children to nudity or sex. You get that on the news, on television every day. So the CDC wrote it. I didn't write it. Don't blame me. The CDC wrote it. You understand what I'm saying? But the reason why I'm just saying all that to say is, that's it. We just got organized. That's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to talk y'all heads off. I was hoping that it was going to be a press conference so that I could talk to some of y'all in person. I'm streaming it live. I really just wanted to break ground and tell y'all I've never formally told the world what it is that Life Outside the Streets does. And that's what I wanted to do. You know, so in a nutshell, we want to stop the violence by targeting, you know, the families that have been impacted the most. And, you know, by the way, my condolences to all of you. You get what I'm saying? Everybody's a victim in this. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody's a victim, because we've all been bamboozled. At the end of the day, the reason I got to talk about this, so because, you know, when they say, well, Black Lives Matter, then black people wouldn't be killing each other. Well, if you knew, respectfully, the history of why black people are killing each other, you wouldn't say such a thing. The reason why black people are killing each other is because it was designed for them. It was manufactured for them to kill each other. It was a plan to do what they did to keep us against each other. So now, although the government and the powers that be wasn't on the block to cause the conflict, they caused the trauma that has been passed down, that has damaged our ability to process things correctly. And they continue to manufacture it. You know how hopeless it is for somebody to look at the mayor, the governor, their principal, anybody of leadership, their parents, and to see bodies dropping, and for y'all to keep saying every day, we don't have a clue. We're trying to figure it out. And y'all wonder why? So the person that got a gun that's in the street, they supposed to say, all right, well, these folks out here ain't got a clue to how to stop it. They ain't got a clue on how to protect us. They ain't got a clue about nothing. And I'm supposed to depend on them? That don't make no sense. We got to take accountability for doing a poor job at adulting. Number one. That's what we do. That's what me and everybody that stands with me do. We recognize as a community of adults, We have been doing a horrible job.
Let's talk about healing, because our youth are becoming more empowered as they observe their parents and their elders and their mentors blazing new trails, attempting to crack this mold of survival and provide them with more opportunities. Some of the challenges we are seeing in our youth is that they're trying to thrive using outdated survival tools. Now, when we see this maladaptive behavior in our youth, we can pinpoint that right away and label it as behavior. But what we quite often miss is some of those rusty hammers that these kids are using are from our toolbox. So if we want to effectively heal the youth, we must heal ourselves first.
I'm here to declare that we swiping the table like my man Jesus did when he came in the temple and he found out they was in there using the temple, using the God's house as a storehouse. Just like America is using God's house and people as a storehouse, only focusing on money. He cleared the table. We coming through to clear the table. I resigned from my job that I love, my students that I love, because I recognize that evidently everybody's too busy to stop the violence in Philadelphia. Everybody's too busy to advocate for the people that don't have no one advocating for them. So I had to make a sacrifice that God laid on my heart. I'll make it my full-time job to stop the violence in Philadelphia. So that's what you have in me. I haven't been appointed by no organization, by no politician. The only person I've been appointed by is God to carry out this mission. It's not hard. It's really pretty simple. And it's really just about organizing the people that get it. Don't worry about everybody getting it. That's a big thing that deters a lot of great plans. Oh, well, everybody ain't going to do this, or everybody don't run the world. It's only 2%, if you didn't know. It's only 2% that manages all the wealth. So what did I tell you? That's the formula for everything. Everybody don't run the government. It's always small groups that manage everybody. We've just been mismanaged, and we've allowed it. That's what we've been at fault for, because we was unaware. People don't know. People don't know these things that I'm telling you that I'm going to continue to tell you. I'm not going to burn your ears out today, but I had to make sure you knew a couple key things. That there is a solution to stopping the violence, and we are working it. We're not shopping it around. And and it's a couple things that I got to mandate before I get out of here. You know, we going to treat the trauma, but we have to establish some cultural norms. You know, it's a lot of things in our culture right now that are normal that are moving forward. Disrespecting people. But above people, disrespecting women and children is now illegal. It's illegal now. It's now illegal. Oh, somebody trying to call. Hold up. We gotta stop that. Yeah, so disrespecting women, children is illegal. So I'm calling on all of the men of God. Not just men. See, men of God are fearless. That's why I'm able to do this. I know what comes with this. This is my whole life, as I've been telling my mentors and people, oh man, you gotta be careful, this, that, and the other. I'm not worried about none of that. Men of God, I need y'all to enforce this law. We can't be out here. We gotta protect our children and our women at all costs, not just your woman. And half of y'all don't do that. Half of us. We got to protect them at all costs. That has to be a priority. Just by prioritizing that, it's going to change the whole culture. So men of God, when you see it, I don't want you dictating, saying, yo, you can't do this. Don't do that. I need you to educate with love. So when, for example, I ain't going to just give you no orders and not show you how to do it. So for example, you see somebody disrespecting a woman. You don't say, yo, don't talk to that. Yo, bro, this is how you educate with love. Yo, bro, you know it's another way you could talk to her to make her feel even better? No, you ain't know that? Yeah, you know it's a whole nother way you can go about that. Look, how about try this? How about try that? You know what I mean? We off that. We bigger than that. You know what I mean? I understand some people get you frustrated or whatever, and you might want to go there, but that's not how, at the end of the day, that's still a woman of God, and you a man of God. So that's not ever how you want to, carry yourself. No matter how somebody else treating you, you don't never want to step off your throne and start acting like them. We got to enforce that. But you see how I talk to the person. I didn't say, yo, you a nut. You ain't supposed to be doing all that. You acting like a nut. I educated them and say, yo, you know it's another way that you can talk to a woman. And I did it with love, not judgment. That's the problem. A lot of y'all been giving out the right message, but you're giving it out in a judgmental way. You got to give it out with love. That's why people not receiving it. Nobody got no priority to receive your message if it's not bundled in love. What are you talking about? Those days are over. So I'm going to just give you that one law today. Moving forward, it's illegal to disrespect women and children. Most importantly, it's illegal to disrespect yourself. But sometimes we'll sacrifice ourselves. I've been that person. And that's why I made poor decisions. I don't care. I'm cool. I can do it. I can deal with it. But I didn't think about the fact that the thing that I could deal with, my mom and my daughter and everybody else got to deal with it too. See, I had that reality when I got locked up. I was cool. I already knew it. I already wrote it. I said it's just grown man detention. I've been in detention my whole life. Going to jail, detention was sweeter. In detention, I had to sit at the desk with my hands folded for like 2 hours at Gerard. In jail, I was watching cable, playing games. You get what I'm saying? If I wanted to, I was really in there studying. Showered in God's word. I studied for 27 months straight. Seriously. And that's why that's why I'm able to be used by God on this level. And that's why I wouldn't get that time back for nothing. Because I know out here it's virtually impossible to have that much time alone with God. But it's a priority. It's a priority. You got to get to know God. And that's another thing. You know, it's not a priority anymore for people to know God. It's an option. We make our kids go to school. We make our kids do this. We make our kids do that. But we're not making our kids know God. We give them an option when it comes to knowing God. But we get all worked up and make sure that they got to be signed up for this and signed up for that. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get we getting our priorities straight. We getting our priorities straight. See, God's law don't change. See, God's laws don't change. See, this world, this government, these laws of this land, every year they change every day if they want them to, or if we want them to moving forward. It used to be they, now it's we, because now we dictating things. We dictating things. Y'all never have to worry about them buying me out. Anybody that know me, whether it be a student, whether it be an adult, whether it be a supervisor, whether it be a friend, whether it be a mother, father, grandmother, they already know what time it is. I'm gonna do what I want to do, but and the good news about that is what I want to do is in line with what He want to do. That's the Most High. So I stand firm in that. No fear, no shame, no compromise. And that's the only type of men that I'm looking to work with. Point blank, period. And so all that, oh well, we can't do this, or if you got any doubt, you don't bring that on people my way, and pay attention to what people are saying in times like this. When they like people that got those hopeless attitudes, stop entertaining that. Don't let them talk like that around you. Even if that's their opinion. Say, oh, it ain't no point. Oh, bro, you got to take that somewhere else. You got to protect your peace and protect your future. The power is in what we say. God spoke things into existence. Let there be light. Let there be this. We got the same power on another level. Think about it. Everything you ever did didn't become a reality till you said it. You went from, damn, I'm trying to get a job. Damn, I really want a job. You ain't get that job until you said, I'm getting this job. Soon after you said, I'm getting a job. Once you changed your language to I'm doing X, Y, and Z, it happened every time. I done had this game for a long time, folks. I done had this game for a long time. And the thing that I'm saying right now is, all this foolishness stops today. Of course it's not going to snap and happen overnight. But this is just a message to the world that I'm committed to serving God and my people. And what I'm committed to doing is stopping this violence and taking ownership of our community. I know how this thing ran. Thank y'all for getting the development started. But moving forward, if we don't have a hand in everything that's happening, it's not happening. And that's the laws of the land. Yeah. Everything, we can cease anything. And politicians, it's a loophole for everybody to lose their job. And if it's not one, that's going to be the first thing we make law. It's a loophole for everybody to lose their job overnight. Y'all been playing games with our lives. This is my entire life. And it's over. It's a wrap. We not playing no more games with y'all. And we ain't coming violent. We gonna use the United States Constitution to take control over what the Constitution has already given us. Thank you. Thank you so very much. It's game time, folks. Let's rock and roll. So we gonna prioritize putting God first, and we gonna prioritize honoring our women and our children, and we gonna protect that and bring anybody that ain't up to speed on that by any means necessary. Phase 1, I'm from Erie Avenue. I'm focusing on targeting my area as it relates to the homicides. However, any men of God that want to step up and get on board with this, join me so we can reach more ground. But if we going to prove it here at home, down Erie Avenue, and then we going to scale it up. You know, that language they like to use. All this goofy stuff. Y'all sitting in meetings every day getting nothing done. I'm coming down there. We coming down there. All them city hall meetings, y'all keep sitting there and drag. It don't take all day long. We ready. We know what we want. That's why we got to put it on paper, y'all. That's why I had to do this, because I don't have the right team. I can't do it by myself. So me, what I'm good at is this. I'm ready to get in front of them. I'm ready to advocate for us. I know how to talk to them. I know how to deliver. I know everything. But I need, as it relates to communicating with them. However, I need the team. I need the administrative team. I need the attorney, and I need the accountant. And I need the administrative assistant team, so that we can deliver and create the system, the operations that we need to create and maintain what we're about to acquire.
The pulse of Black America is that we're grieving. This system, this society weathers us before we even come out of the womb, because it weathers our parents' nervous system. There is a constant influx of cortisol and adrenaline in order to deal with this stuff. And so what we know is that toxic stress impacts every system of the body. When stuff like this happens, it is not just the grief of watching that brother be destroyed. It is the 400 years of grief that was never addressed. My son is learning how to drive, and it's terrifying me. It's terrifying me, and it's terrifying my wife. I can't see another body. I can't watch the whole thing. I can't watch that. It's re-wounding and it's re-traumatizing. I can't do that. But if they do something to my baby, I'm done. I'm holding a lot of nervous systems right now. But it's hard. I'm not sleeping. You know, I keep going from sadness to grief to a tremendous amount of rage.
I graduated from Girard College in 2002, and I started a record company called Manny Strong Records. The reason why I started that company is because my uncle is currently, and at that time, was still currently locked up for life for a crime he did not commit. Basically off hearsay, no real evidence. Is the Roger King, known crooked DA, organized and sabotaged his whole life because he was a young man owning property and doing things right. That's another thing. Like, I need y'all to know, like, the American government, a large portion of them, the ones that control it, not everybody, it ain't never everybody. But the culture of the American government is to terrorize the black community at all costs. So when we're doing things correctly, there's no secret that they come and sabotage us. So they did that to my uncle, and I created Manny Strong Records. And that was my first mentoring program, because I put my peers, some in my own grade level, and a few under, and even some people, RIP to my brother Yacht Yayo. He was even older than me and came under my leadership at the age of 18. But I created Manny Strong Records as a way to acquire wealth, you know, through something that I love, which is music, and to get my uncle out of jail. Soon after that, you get what I'm saying, I started Life Outside the Streets, because I saw that the difference between me and a person that went to Girard was only my education. It was only the information that I was exposed to. And so it was like, damn, you know, if I could go to Girard and I could have this different mindset, then, you know what I mean, everybody can't go to Girard. Girard is going to hold like 500 people. So I created Life Outside the Streets to create so that I can expand what Girard gave me. Girard provided a place for me where I didn't have to worry about the poverty and all of the physical things that you see in the hood. And they provided me with food, clothing, and shelter on the highest level. So those traumas were X'd out. You understand? I was in position to focus on being a kid. And I didn't even grasp that. I didn't even understand what I had because they didn't make it clear. They didn't communicate it to me of what the full opportunity was. I don't even think they knew at that time. You get what I'm saying? Not the school. Stephen Girard knew because he wrote the will. But anyway, that's what it gave me. So I created Life Outside the Streets to expand that. Just to know the difference between the shooter and you and I is a mentor, is a message, is somebody reaching them, somebody effectively reaching them. See, people think because they tell somebody something, they did a good job at telling them. It's not true. If you tell somebody something and it's not evident in their actions that they received it, that don't mean that you didn't do your best job. But it does mean that the job is not done. That means we might have to get that person in front of somebody else instead of cutting them off as a lost cause because you were ineffective in teaching them. No, maybe your teaching style or something about you didn't have them in the mood. Put them in front of somebody else. That's the mindset of this leadership. There's no such thing as a lost cause. There's no such thing as a lost soul. Because to all believers of God, that ain't nothing I read. There's believers and unbelievers, but the goal is to educate as many people and cross them over to become believers. So how could you ever write anybody off? We get lost though. We get caught up in the moment and emotions. But that's why I called on the men of God. The women, they already ready. They've been here. Fellas, we've been playing games. We out of pocket. The women been holding this thing down since the beginning of time. Start with Jesus. Even when Jesus was around, it was the women holding it down. Listen, I keep talking to the men of scholars. Oh, why is this happening? It was ordained. So what that mean? You kick your feet up and keep watching the babies drop? Is you crazy? You niggas better not ever come nowhere near me. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. If it's a man that you know, give him this message. Moving forward, they need to mentor somebody, especially on social media, every day. If it's not a message of mentoring, speaking directly to the youth, to the people in your community, stop following them. Stop following them, unfollow them, and stop participating in anything they're doing. This is the priority. If your child not getting, if your child coming home tonight is a priority to you, so you shouldn't be supporting somebody that is not a priority too. Point blank period. So we can't charge people for something they didn't know. So that's why you got to tell them first, you know what? You in my life, you in my child life, moving forward, I need you to be putting messages out. Because right now, black folks is out here, they done turned into certified house Negroes. They done made it to celebrity, they done became successful, and now they're dangling their success up here and selling it back to the community that put them in the position they in. We put y'all in this position. We put y'all here. Yes, I ain't talking about ain't nobody what? Everybody that's successful got put there by us, the people. We support you and we keep you there for now. Y'all forgot. See, a give back. The definition of give back. See, when y'all doing the give back, you're giving back to the owner, to the person that it belongs to. And y'all act crazy. You know what it would mean? Or what it's going to mean once every celebrity acknowledges an organization that they support on the ground? Yeah, that's a mandate. That's an order that's going to come out formally. Every celebrity. It should be an organization like Life Outside the Streets, a boots on the ground organization on your wall, on your website, promoted and endorsed by you. You know what that will do for their support? It also needs to be a young person highlighted at least once a month from the trenches, not from the network, from the trenches that you don't know from a can of paint. You know what that's going to do? As y'all commit to sharing that platform. See, when niggas died for voting and rights, it wasn't wasn't for you niggas to be out here getting money, making it rain, and doing all the foolishness y'all doing. They didn't fight for that. But that's what y'all got. You wasn't allowed to be on tour. You wasn't allowed to do none of this stuff y'all gonna do, which is cool. That came with it. But they didn't fight for that. They fought for us to take control of the situation. Then y'all say, well, then all y'all do is buy into the propaganda. Well, Martin this and Malcolm that. They wasn't concerned about what these spectators is talking about right now. They was concerned about giving us control, and they gave it to us. And all we're doing with it right now is blowing it. Blowing money fast. Those days are over, man. I'm not going back to work for no job. So I'll never have to worry about losing my job. I know what my job is. My job is to serve God and to serve you. I'm going to say the Life Outside the Streets introduction for the town hall. I love y'all. Don't forget to treat your trauma. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it, man. I like talking, but I gotta get back to work. I got some orders to fill, and I'm gonna see y'all at 5. Thank y'all. Spread the word. See y'all at 5. Peace.
Can we all just